compiling lists, kill lists, with names of Americans the terror group has in its crosshairs. As the names become known, the FBI is warning some of the targets, but not all, despite a duty to do so. So what should Americans do here? Let's bring in Steve Rogers, a retired naval intelligence officer, former member of the FBI National Joint Terrorism Task Force. Thanks for coming down to Post 9 to join us here. Troubling story. And is this a new thing with the Islamic State? I mean, has this been a challenge in the past?
Well, it hasn't been a challenge as it is now. I'm sure that they were gathering lists, probably of political leadership, maybe people in the business world, et cetera. But now we're talking about American citizens, and I don't know how they're picking the American citizens, but here's the issue. Back in the early 2000s, when I was on the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the reason why President Bush had created that task force was to do just what is not supposed to, what's not being done now. It was to share information. The FBI would be sitting with the CIA and military intelligence prior to 2001, and there would be no sharing of intelligence. So now you got the Joint Terrorism Task Force.
But is it required, not, or in that case, it was about agencies sharing information with each other. What is required in terms of disclosing to a person if the government learns they're on a list like this?
Well, here's the issue with requirement, okay? We would say, yeah, it should be required. However, there's a degree of regarding the requirements. If it's going to compromise an investigation, it could be very, very a slick road you're going down. But let me say this. The job of the United States government is to protect its citizens. If there is a kill list of American citizens, I believe they are obligated to, at the very least, let the local police know so that the police can keep an eye on these people and then let you or I know.
I wonder, guys, what you think, but is there a risk of alarming people needlessly, depending on how these lists are being put together?
I guess I would wonder if that's the rationale behind not disclosing. I don't know, because clearly they're not going to say why we're not giving.
Mike, it probably is, but you know what? It's a ridiculous rationale. If we are not going to be alarmed over what we're seeing now around the world to the degree that they think we would be alarmed, then there's something wrong with that rationale. If you're on a kill list, you need to know so that you can protect yourself and your family. And one more thing I'd like to add. I wonder if any political leadership in this country is on that kill list and if they were notified. What is the difference between that life and the life of the average John Doe on Main Street?
Do you expect, though, that the authorities are essentially trying to work in the other direction and try to figure out exactly who put them on the kill list, what, whether there's a plan in place or if it's just kind of a wish list, so to speak?
Well, it's possible, but in this environment today, I would not, look, I would rather lean on the side of safety. There's nothing wrong with saying to a local police department that, look, you have 3 or 4 citizens on this list. We might want to sit down and talk to them. They don't have to advertise who's on the list, for goodness sakes, but it's good to know that, hey, if I'm on that list, why are you on that list? Who do you know? What did you do? In fact, revealing that list to the targets may help the investigations that are being conducted in tracking terrorists.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a strange one because, as far as I'm aware, there have not been any, and I don't want to get too gory, but there have not been any targeted assassinations yet from ISIL in the United States or even in Europe. As far, all the terrorist attacks have been kind of
terror acts or random.
They've been more random, easy soft targets kind of thing. I'm not saying that it's not a real thing. I'm just saying we haven't really seen the nature of that kind of targeted assassinations, which was a real feature. If you go back, you may not remember, you aren't alive, but in the 70s in Europe, you had a lot of domestic targeted assassinations, which is a huge terrorist problem, like the Red Brigade and some of the
But they have
groups.
changed their pattern of attacks. If we notice, they're going after soft targets now. So maybe they're doing a little bit of work on trying to get even softer targets. But let me add this, and this is very important to note. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is the best in the world. I mean, I believe we have not had a catastrophic attack because of the hard work they do. I'm just hoping that it's not becoming politicized as everything else has in this country. But James Comey, he's the director of the FBI, great guy, solid guy. I just hope we're not going down the road of political correctness regarding our law enforcement agencies.
Steve, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome.
That's Steve Rogers. Google Glass wasn't a hit.